We have John from Canada who wants to talk to us today and wants to talk to us about Mormonism, interestingly enough. John, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Dan, I'd like to know, what do you think of Mormonism? Tell me your opinion, Mr. Dan.
What do I think of Mormonism? Well, I think it's funny. I saw the Book of Mormon on Broadway this year. And I'd never seen the show before. And that doesn't talk as much. It talks a little bit about the actual Book of Mormon. It's mostly its own story. But, I've read things. I've talked to Bryce Blankenegg, who's a host of the Naked Mormonism podcast, and a bunch of other Mormons, ex-Mormons. And they all have very funny things to say and are going to be way more insightful. But it's a very American thing, isn't it? Everybody always says it's a very American religion, and that has to be true. Like we talked a few weeks ago about some of the verbiage that comes out of the documents from the head honchos in the Mormon Church, and like how they want to proselytize to folks, and it's very corporate. It's very much like run like a business. I mean, it's no secret that the Mormons are some of the largest landowners, in the U.S. and in part of the world, right? Just from all the buildings and stuff that they buy up for part of the church to do, whatever with. I don't know. They really take advantage of being a church, I guess. So the average Mormon, perfectly fine people. I'm obviously going to be more skeptical of the folks on high. But it's just a very funny religion to me, especially the more you dive into like Joseph Smith and his shenanigans, interpreting the tablets through a hat, and all the fun stories that come with it. Oh, and the fact that like Bigfoot's a thing, like unofficially in Mormonism, because like one guy basically thought they saw a hairy monster and they thought it was Cain, and Cain is, I guess, Bigfoot. A lot of stuff there. But I don't know. That's my thoughts. What do you think, Fee?
Oh, I think they don't like black people, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Beyond that, like I don't know that I'm too curious.
Yeah, they changed. We were talking about policy changes. Apparently, in the 1970s, God was okay with black people being in charge of the Mormon Church. Funny how that works.
Yeah, but, that part. I know the magical panties and not liking black people. I'm gonna go with the hard pass. No, I'm good.
Meeting a black Mormon, if you meet one, you gotta buy a lottery ticket, right? Because it's like, wow, that's not too many of those, I think. But I don't know, John. That's our thoughts. What do you think?
So, I don't know what to say about that. But what shenanigans are you referring to by Mr. Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism?
What shenanigans am I referring to? Where do I even begin? I mean, holy cow. First of all, the guy, says he has these, he talks to the angel Moroni, and only he's ever talked to the angel. No one's ever seen him talk to the angel. And there's a group of people that claim that they have seen the tablets, but also kind of not really. And Joseph's the only guy that ever really saw them, because everyone else kind of said they saw visions of them, which is like not the same thing. And then other people like recanted some of their testimonies. It's like very sketchy. And on top of this, Joseph Smith becomes a wanted criminal, and that's why like Utah is like kind of a thing, because he kept getting kicked out of all the places he was at. So a lot of violence that happened there. He was very critical of the newspapers that were critical of him. So there was a lot of threats to the newspapers publishing stories about him and stuff. I mean, you got to read a book about Joseph Smith's life, because it's pretty wild, the stuff that he was getting up to.
I also think that at a certain point, like no matter what a person is claiming, you got to ask, how do they know that? Like, how could you possibly falsify what he's saying? So what are you asking from the standpoint of, do they sound credible, or what's your question?
Oh, I just wanted to know if you, I know you guys are against Christianity. I just want to know if you're more against Mormonism than any other Christianity, or is it all the same?
I don't know if I'm more against it. I mean, like, it's just as false as other kinds of Christianity. And by the way, I've said this before, a lot of people say Mormons aren't Christians. They definitely are Christians, first and foremost. They definitely follow Christ and his teachings, they also follow some other teachings too, you know?
They say the same thing about Jehovah's Witnesses, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think theirs primarily is because they are not Trinitarian, but they say the same thing.
Yeah. So I think Christians like to distance themselves from Mormonism because if they, you know, a lot of Christians see Mormonism as silly because of the planet stuff and, you know, the racism. Not that that's silly, but it is silly, but it's like more bad than silly. You know what I mean? It's you know, but the truth is, if you look at the factual claims that Mormonism makes, it's the same as Christianity. It's just some more BS on top, you know, when you factor in Joseph Smith and the prophets that came with him and all that stuff. So yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I think I know how not just Mormonism, but I think I know how all religion came about. I suspect that a long time ago. You see, a long time ago, when humans were evolving, and we were coming out of in a case, we were roving around the African Sahara Desert, and we were looking up in the sky, wondering, what the F are we doing here? We were thinking, something or someone must have put us here. And when we saw things like fire, wind, water, or we had things that were wondrous to us at the time, we thought, something powerful must have created that. And we also, it must have been shocking for our ancestors when they saw two things. A female Neanderthal giving birth, and B, when a Neanderthal passed on. Plus, it gave them hope that when the person did die, they weren't really gone. I guess it's transcended to the 21st century.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot of ideas about the origins of religion, right? And some of it, as you mentioned, are explanations for natural phenomenon, right? Like giving sort of catharsis for death, right? Giving relief for death when the other people die and we're kind of scared and we don't know what that means for us existentially, right? Heaven is kind of a answer for that, or other kinds of afterlives, right? So, I mean, there's definitely a psychological function there. But like, when you talk about like Mormonism, I don't know. I think Joseph Smith was just a guy who wanted to be a cult leader. I think some people just want to be cult leaders, you know, and maybe Jesus was the same way, by the way. I don't necessarily, and people think this is a very controversial take. I don't think it's that controversial at all. When you think about folks like David Koresh or Joseph Smith, or any of the other founders, you know, Jesus did found his own kind of version of Judaism, right? Like Mormonism took from Christianity in the same way that Christianity took from Judaism. He was doing his own spin on it and had his own teachings to it. So, you know, I just think that some people like having that kind of power and people congregate around that for one reason or another too, you know? So.
And I also think that like there's one thing to be curious, and I don't disagree with you on that. You know,
Yeah.
I think that most religions stem from trying to understand the world around us, but it's one thing to be curious and kind of in awe when you see an elephant give birth, and then another thing to say that there's magical underwear. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a bridge too far. One has nothing to do with the other. So it's the additional rules and the additional made up requirements that usually accompany these high control religions that just make absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's psychological safeguarding in being part of a group, right? You know, and I think Mormon, that kind of, because the underwear stuff and all that, you know, that happens on a higher level with Mormonism. You know, the casual Mormons don't always do that kind of thing, right? It happens for specific ceremonies and stuff, right? And so we joked earlier about like these sorts of initiations, you know, like it is part of a, I don't know, some people have a desire to ascend and move themselves higher up in some sort of hierarchy, right? And we build these social sort of dynamics to be able to do that sometimes, for better or worse. So I don't know, a lot going on there, John. But we gave our thoughts. What do you think?
Oh, I think that might be true. What you're saying. However, all I gotta say is that let's keep searching, shall we, until we find the truth. Don't you agree?
I would agree with that. If God wants to come talk to me, the lines are open. You know, I've been saying that for a while. But so far, I've only ever heard about God through other people. Isn't that interesting?
Okay, Dan, I'm going to ask you a personal question. If God called this show right now, let's say I hang up this phone, and the next person who calls is God, would you take his call?
Would I take his call? Hell yeah, I'd take his call. Yeah, I'd be scared not to be honest. Right?
Oh, so you
God's not exactly a nice guy, all things considered. When you look at all the stories, sometimes he is, but a lot of times he'll get pretty mad if you don't. But I don't know. What about you? If God was calling, you'd pick up the phone?
Yeah, I have plenty of questions though.
Yeah, that's true.
Aren't you risking his ire by having this show, by questioning him?
I think God has a lot more stuff to worry about than me hosting a call-in show, right? There are people getting killed. There are people getting abused all the time in much worse ways. If blasphemy is the worst thing I do, then so be it. But it's not because I wasn't open to talking to him. That's definitely not the case.
Yeah, and I mean, don't you think, John, that if God is he holds all the power, right? Like there's nothing that he can't access. He knows where the fuck I live, right? Like if he wants to talk to me, he can do that. But like to Dan's point, the moment a human stops speaking about him, we don't hear from him. So if his goal, like I think about my relationship with my child, if I want to ensure that I have a close relationship with my child, then there are certain things that I have to do as the authority figure. I don't see why that would be any different for God.
Okay, but I see. But but what if you guys are wrong and you end up standing before him?
Well, I think I would be fine with that because I'm honest, right? Like, I honestly don't think slavery is okay. I honestly don't think bashing babies' heads against rocks is okay. I don't think that having it's in there. I don't think those things are okay, and I'll stand 10 toes.
Tell me the verse. I want to know.
I'm sorry?
That's in, he's asking about the verse. It's talking about a proverb specifically. Oh, sorry, Psalms. Yes. Thank you, Kelly. I can hear Kelly right now. Usually he's muted, but now I can hear him. Thank you. Yeah, I don't have the specific psalm off the top of my head, but there is a psalm referencing the bashing of the infants' heads of the enemy.
Oh, I must have missed that part. Well,
yeah.
I think I'll let you go now. But have a good night and say hello to Kelly for me.
Thanks, John. Will do. And can I ask you something before you go, John? Usually people are asking me before they go, but I want to ask you something, John. Is that okay?
Yes, you may ask.
Okay. If God stood before you right now to judge you, why should you be afraid?
Okay. Well, if we're talking about a being who created the universe out of nothing in 6 24-hour days, and he has the power and the tendency to dish out his divine power whenever he feels upset. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
He flooded the earth, destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, and let's see, what else did he do? In the Bible, he murdered a man for not impregnating his brother's widow.
Yeah.
If he has the power and the tendency to do that, if he's true and he's not happy with me, I'm in serious trouble.
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? You're afraid because he can commit acts of violence against you.
He can,
right?
He can, and he will.
Yeah. I mean, is that just? You think?
Well,
you think that's a good thing?
If you ask a Christian, he's going to tell you that it is just, because anything God does is just, regardless of.
Sure. But what about you, John? What do you think?
When I started thinking, I started saying to myself, there are some things that are unacceptable, and if we're going to akin God to our parent, even if a parent does something to the child, it's still wrong because the child is a separate being. Even though the child came from the parent, it's two different people. That means you can't do whatever you want to them.
Yeah.
Even if that if that was the case, I have to say that God would be wrong to do anything to us, because we are separate beings from Him. We're self-aware.
There you go, John. I like that answer. I like that. Thanks, John. I appreciate it. I won't take up your time. You have a great rest of your night.
You too.
Yeah, so there you go. John from Canada. What'd you think, Fee?
Good call. I mean, it's always fascinating to me when people are curious about religions that are so I don't want to say fringe, but you know what I mean, like off the beaten path from
Yeah.
traditional Christianity. Like I would always say, like I get being born into Jehovah's Witness religion, but I can't. I struggle to hear or understand how someone could hear it, hear what the teachings are, and still sign up for it. So
Yeah.
it's just interesting. But I think people are looking for answers. People specifically in this day and age when things are so uncertain and chaotic. So I
Mhm.
understand it, but yeah, there are certain things that I just don't know that I would be able to push past.
I get it. Yeah, and I wonder that too. Is it my personality? Is it just, what are all these factors that contribute to some people staying and some people leaving? Because I imagine if you grew up in Mormonism, you'd find ways to justify it, right?
Yeah,
You'd find a ways
absolutely.
because yeah,
Yeah. I think I found ways to justify Jehovah's Witnesses. Like I
sure.
remember somebody told me one day that it was a cult. I'm like, no, it's not. And I found all the reasons why, well, it is
Yeah,
not. but
yeah,
but that was an interior look. Like and you only know what you know. Like you don't know. We were talking about this before the show. Like
yeah,
none of us know what we don't know. And then I think sometimes in that search for truth, there's also that voice in the back of your head saying, okay, hell might be real, that
yeah,
fear based that thing. But like I was saying, like I would much rather go for truth because ultimately if I'm performing anyway and God is omniscient, he knows I'm faking the funk. Like what am I going to
yeah,
do that for? Like you can't
yeah.
hide from a God that knows your own thoughts. So
That's right.
yeah.
I have to trust that a God would be fair and just, and if he is fair and just, he'd realize that it doesn't make sense to me. I can't just willingly. It's like trying to make myself believe the Earth is flat. It's like
Yeah.
I don't. I understand that people believe that and that idea
Hmm.
exists, but I can't make myself believe that. I have to be convinced of that idea, and so if I'm not convinced, I don't think that's a lack of virtue
Right.
for not being convinced of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people say all the time, like, what are you gonna say if God? I'll say I'm honest. Like,
Mhm.
I honestly don't believe this shit. So it's
Right.
not like I'm pretending. And
But
to your point,
doesn't that go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show? Authenticity, not
hmm
a Christian value. Really
that
never
part.
has been,
No, it can't
right?
be. It
Yeah.
absolutely can't be. I mean, think about it. It preaches this concept of like uniformity of thought and of preferences. Like that's just not the human experience. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's a pipe dream from the beginning.
For a lot of us, yeah. I mean, for some
Hmm.
people,
Yeah.
authoritarianism is their bread and butter, but not me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
No,
that.
not at all.